So,
There you go.
here we are.
Another one in the can.
Bam.
Yeah.
Drained it, dropped it. Now we talk about it.
Balvenie.
Mm-hmm.
One of Gordy's personal favorites.
There's some controversy. Controversy in the whiskey world because we have a little, maybe a discrepancy in opinion. We're not completely dialed in, I would say, on this one. So maybe that's a good place to start. Talk about what it is that you're missing in this whiskey and maybe that I'm finding, and
Yeah.
that's okay because there are moments when palates are not going to be identical. We're definitely going to have some. We're going to have some differences of opinion going through these processes, right?
Yeah. And I'm not going to hold back, and I'm not going to lie, but Balvenie's never been one of my favorites.
Right.
And I know that you've had a
little
liking
love
for. You have a little
A
more
little
love
love
for it.
affair. Look at a little love affair,
But-
especially with the double wood. I've had a few, well, 2 gifts from 2 different weddings. I've got
That's
one, the Tim Sinclair, Wendy Sinclair wedding, and then the second was a wedding that I DJ'd out at UBC Farm. It was quite a nice wedding, and one of the gifts I got was the Balvenie double wood. So
Doublewood, though.
I know
Not the
it's
triple
different. I
cast.
know.
So
Not the
it
triple
might be
cast.
different. So that's the only saving grace
It's
I think
different
it
for
has.
sure. I think it is. I think it is different. Yeah, there's no doubt. So we need to focus on the triple cask and what it is that I'm liking in it, and what it is that you're sort of.
It's like the Lagavulin comparison. I mean, not in the same, but they make another one. What do? They make this, and is this one? I would, because we're unclear on price, but I would say that this one is probably more expensive than the
double
double
wood? Yeah, well,
No?
it could be, but it's just too difficult to say. It's
We should know something like that, though.
yeah, but how do you find that out? I've actually been looking. It's something I've been aware of since it showed up. I mean, it
You don't
showed
think
up a
it's-
few weeks ago, and I've kind of been hedging around, and there's no, you can't go to the BC liquor store and find out what it's worth here. You can't really. I think there was one Canadian price that I saw listed at about $80, $85 or something.
For this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
but that was just a random.
Okay, so what is the double cast worth, or double?
But
double
here
wood?
in BC, the double cast is worth, about $110. I think maybe even.
Whoa,
yeah,
really?
All in, yeah, $115.
That's pricey.
Yeah, it's pretty much $99, $98 on the shelf.
Is it labeled as a 12 as well?
It is.
Well, that's okay. So
Yeah.
maybe they're in the same ballpark.
That's what I'm thinking.
I would think this is probably more though.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Triple
Well, yeah.
versus double. They can charge more for that.
Triple.
Just cause.
But triple. The difference though is, like I was saying, you have 3 different casks sitting for 12 years each. One sherry, one first pour American bourbon, one used cask, formerly a bourbon.
So is it
American
divided up
bourbon.
into 4 years each?
No, they each sit for 12 in each of those.
It's just for 12 years in each.
Yeah.
So why aren't they putting whatever that would be, 36?
No. So then they take each of the 12-year maturations
Mix
and
them
put it together in
Right,
a
I'm
ton
sorry.
at the
Okay.
end. And then they bring those together for 6 months or whatever, and then begin, I guess, bottling at that point.
6 months more, so it's like 12 years, 6 months.
Wow. Yeah, 12 and a half, 12.5.
12.5. Why don't they put that on there? That'd be
Because
different.
it's not in the cask, it's in a ton. It's in a different thing, right?
Okay.
So it's not maturing in the cask, it's simply melding together in a ton, which, I wish I knew a little more about that. I find it interesting, but everything I've read, that sort of sounds like what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so getting back just to the flavor.
Yeah.
I'm still smelling, and when I did it earlier, I still could be wrecked, but I'm not smelling anything that is
You're not
jumping out
smelling
at me.
a vanilla wood on the nose, like a kind of a.
Maybe, yeah. No. Now
Yeah.
that you say it, okay, there's always
Yeah.
these little, hints
triggers,
to,
right?
Yeah, okay.
It-
I do smell that a little bit. But it is still a heavy alcohol. Maybe not. Maybe not anymore. Maybe it's sat in the glass long enough. We've waited for a little bit.
You've been drinking it a little bit now too, so it's starting to kind of take a moment. It's starting to overtake you a little bit, probably.
Yeah, but I'm really picking up the vanilla now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
you
I
should
really
be,
am.
but on the nose. Now
Yeah.
try and taste through that.
Okay.
And again, just don't put just enough to get on the tongue, and just
Okay.
hang there.
Okay, that's where it still fails me.
Is on the tongue, is on the actual
Yeah.
palate.
It's not distinctive enough to be recognized as anything unusual. For me, I'm not getting anything unusual out of that. I like the nose now that you mentioned that,
Yeah.
but for the rest, I don't know. The actual taste is,
Okay, so let's.
is singly, it's like one-dimensional.
Yeah, I would say you're right. I would say it's one-dimensional. It has a unifying sweet wood, but without it being too sherry-ish. I kind of go back to the apricot peach with a bit of, it's like that honey.
You're talking flavor still?
Honey sweet flavor on the taste, and then we can start talking about the finish. But like, I think when it gets onto my tongue, I really like it. Like it's I like it, and I like it because it's sweet. That's kind of where I'm at on the taste right now.
Sweet isn't sherry. I taste sherry.
Maybe.
Ugh.
I like to say honey to sherry on this one. Like,
I think you're really giving it more credit than it deserves.
yeah, well, I might be able to just taste it in a way that you don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, is to
Sure.
recognize that, we're each going to taste it as we're going to taste it, and that's just the reality. It's hard to come to what?
Oh no, I'm just saying, like I'm lapping you here,
Oh, yeah.
but I guess I haven't had as much. But no, I'm just like I'm waiting for comparison Scotch time.
We're getting quickly toward that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But
No,
look at
that's
this.
why I just looked and I'm like, holy smokes, you still have a bunch, but we could easily just put it aside, grab a new glass.
Yeah, true that we do.
And actually, it's good to taste it afterwards anyway.
Yeah, we don't need to chug her down.
Okay, so we have different.
A little bit different on this
Yeah,
one,
that's-
and I think that's a great point to talk about. It's that not every person is going to taste everything in the same way, and that you have to recognize why you like what you like and why I like what I like, and so.
Well, how much do you think? If you're being honest, how much do you think that has to do with your love for the
brand?
for the double?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe the brand.
Yeah, like
but I mean, just
yeah, I
when
think.
you taste it.
Oh, I
maybe
think
not
it
the
has
brand.
I think it has an influence. I think that experience, the drinking experience, the tasting experience. I think it relates. I think it relates to your memories, your past memories of when you associated things that are positive to the whiskey. I think that's going to play a role.
Yeah.
And I think, you definitely pull for whiskeys sometimes. As I said, I mean, bringing it out of the package, looking at it, I like the clarity of the message, the way I love that. I love all that. I love how they set it up. So I think maybe I'm a little bit under the spell of the Balvenie for sure. Whereas, you're okay with just being more critical toward it. And that's, and I think too, like, it does kind of come back down to the sherry. That ends up being something that, for each of us in our own way, we just, I love the sherry and I enjoy it, but for whatever reason, it's like I want to get past it all the time. And I think that's something that's really important to recognize, is that the sherry plays a huge role in the wood. And the wood sherry, especially if it's a first pour sherry cask, is going to have a big time influence on the whiskey.
I find the sherry personally is like a mask for me. It's masking something. It's I know it's not the case, but it seems like if it's not good enough, we're going to throw some sherry in there. It's not Scotch.
Well,
sherry is sherry,
but
keep the sherry out of the Scotch. That's just
Yeah,
my opinion.
okay,
and I
but-
get that.
but let's go
I don't
back-
understand how that adds to a Scotch.
I mean, you have to look at it historically and start to say that sometimes these young spirits, when they were distilled in their, wherever they were distilled, needed some help because they were too intense and too much. Sorry there, Johnny.
That's all right.
Not going to put up with that.
Is that on silent?
Yeah,
So
no.
it's still going to rattle though.
Oh, we got to rattle.
Put it on the carpet so you can look at it that way. Oh yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know what I did? I threw my old phone in the went through the laundry.
How?
I just
What,
took
an
off
iPhone?
my yeah.
Like, you don't have a phone right now?
No, I got a new one.
How, when?
The second day because I'm addicted. Anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. So the sherry.
Sherry.
So the purpose of the sherry way back in the day was to make whiskeys palatable.
Right, and you're talking about them not being
Yeah,
anywhere
and this
near the
no, they
flavors
didn't have. They weren't
flavors
able
bring out
to.
today.
Yeah, they weren't able to. The process just wasn't sophisticated. They didn't. They were just figuring things out. And one thing they figured out was that they could take a harsher spirit, finish it in a sweet cask, and come up with something that the.
But then why don't like the ones that, you know, outside of your love for the Balvenie, why don't they do that with the Islas then?
Well, I think it would be cool.
You think so? Sweeten them out? Like,
I'm
it's
not
like,
saying
it's like
sweeten them
adding
out.
too much sugar to your coffee.
Yes, I would agree. That doesn't mean I wouldn't try it and I wouldn't be interested in the results. I wouldn't necessarily hold out to that they're going to be better in any way. But I wouldn't say that it's going to be any less of an interesting experience.
Well, I guess you could add any number of different flavors to any Scotch.
And that's the cool thing about it.
I guess so.
That's
but
the cool thing about it,
if you've got something different and really good and solid in that flavor, you're going to stick with that. And that's what they do. Those ones that everybody likes, everybody at least respects, they stick with what they know. They're not going to go, I'm going to take some sherry, which is another spirit altogether, and I'm going to pop that into like a different, you know, it's Scotch. It's
I would
not
say
sherry.
I would say you're right and you're wrong. I would say that you're right in the sense that whiskey, the whiskey world, the single malt whiskey world in Scotland doesn't really like to go too far afield. But what you're starting to see in the last 10 years is a lot of experimenting with different finishes, different casks.
More of them go with, well, okay, how many would you say that you've come across have sherry in them, though? Or at least the sherry cask
Sherry seems to be
stage.
prominent in...
It does. It's prominent in lots of them.
like 60% of
There
whiskeys.
you go, right?
Yeah.
So that I don't understand.
I think you have to go, like I said, you go back to the history of it. And
I
you
guess.
Say, but I also think
nowadays,
that...
okay, you can go to the history, but isn't it okay to like avoid that? We've evolved in a certain respect as far as the Scotch goes. We can hone in our flavors that are in our geographical location.
Yeah.
And we make those work.
Right.
You know, we don't need to add... Although, you know, you can go back and say everything's in a bourbon cask.
But I mean, the problem with being too unique in the whiskey world is that you're only going to appeal to a very small demographic of whiskey drinkers. Like, whiskey nerds like you and I, they're out there and they're growing, right? You see it. Like, things have really shifted and changed in the last 20 years. But at the end of the day, these distilleries need to make money. You know, they need to be able to sell their whiskeys. They can't just be waiting on the shelves for whiskey nerds to come along and identify them and sort of like share them in small groups and like love the fact that nobody else is into them. Is that, you know what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, yeah.
So the distilleries have to make some really tough choices between character that is truly unique and outstanding and drinkability and profitability. You know, these things have to be balanced out. And I think that's why you see so many sherry casks, is that the people that are learning how to drink whiskeys enjoy those more. You know? And
so you're saying those are the people that are just getting into Scotch. They're going to enjoy the sherry cask more because they're more palatable.
But
they're easier to drink.
Yeah, I do. I think
That's
you're
it.
gonna,
That's
you're
the
gonna
whole
have,
reason.
You're going to have more sales.
We're
as a
making our
result.
Scotch easier to drink.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, I think
dear.
I think it's important.
That sounds like a sellout.
I think it's part of what's happened through the history of whiskey, though. And you just have
Is
to...
this your favorite then? Like, as far as adding sherry goes, which should bring us into...
It's time for...
Comparison Scotch.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What
Where
are
are we
going to
gonna
do?
go?
Yeah.
Where are we gonna
This is
go?
going to be really interesting. Okay, so let's have a gander of what's on the shelf here.
But I mean, your mind must be working a
Well,
little bit toward comparison.
You're not going to
Scotch.
like what I have to say.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, can we set another ground rule here? Because I'm thinking, I know the last time we talked about this, it had to be something that was maybe in the same region or in all these, you know, but now I'm thinking like, I want to know, you know, if we're giving it a, you know, okay, we had the argument there
4 to
prior
3,
to the finish,
right.
4 to 3.
3
So
to 4 to 4 to 3.
do you pick something that is, you know, does it have to be another Speyside, side, or can we go?
The other one that
can
had
we
a
go
4
with
to 3
something that you
split
think-
was the Jura.
Okay, so
The
but this is
Superstition,
what I'm
we put it
saying.
up
So
against the
maybe
Superstition.
we put it up against Superstition.
We could, but you know what the most natural pairing would be?
Okay, just don't. Let me think if I can guess.
What
before
would be
you
the
say.
most natural pairing?
The most natural pairing. I'm. You know, my pick was going to be the Strathisla again.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just like they're both kind of crummy, and I'm like, which one's better?
Not even close.
Okay,
No.
okay. That's not what you're going to pick. That was my pick.
Okay.
Okay.
There's
what
one
are you
that I
going to
think,
pick?
but there's a natural one. Up
There's
there,
a
I think.
natural one because because of region.
Because of region, because of the sherry finish, and because of the price.
Well, the damn do.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm up for that.
Okay. Yes.
I agree. Okay, let me pull it down here.
Let's take a look.
Let's pull it down.
Can do spirit.
Can do. That's right. It does say that. Can do. Are you finished? Not quite.
Not
Do you
quite,
need
but
another
let's
glass?
just bring another glass down here.
Okay. Well, this will be interesting then.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Okay, before we even taste it,
Ooh.
let's just yeah. It's not super healthy.
That's okay.
Let's just
Well,
go
we
with it.
probably
Just
won't buy another
just
one,
a little bit. Just enough to
Just-
taste it.
just
I'm gonna bet you that the Tamdu is gonna be more enjoyable.
Outclass.
I think it's gonna outclass. It's gonna win the battle.
Well, is it a comparison or a battle?
It's always a battle. What a comparison. I mean, comparison. Yeah. What are you gonna compare? Like you're gonna have to, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a comparison, but one's got to win. That's why we're comparing.
Well, one's got to... I don't agree.
One's got to be better.
One
One's got to
could be better.
Well,
One,
how does it-
we're definitely tasting it in the hopes that we have something to compare.
Have you ever tasted a Scotch back to back and gone, that tastes about the same?
No. Therefore, it's a comparison, not a battle.
Well, yeah. Well, still, you know what I'm saying.
yes.
Some-
Else
you
we
gotta-
would have
you're
called
gonna-
it the battle segment. Battle segment.
Maybe that's what we should do.
We should have called it
It should
the
be the
battle
I
segment.
like that better almost.
Yes. All right, Tamdu. Here you are.
So
in
the
the glass.
Tamdu's in the glass, and I'm smelling more off the nose here than I am with the old Balvenie. It's, well, then again, it is almost way more sherry. It's almost
Yeah.
over sherry.
I know. I smell that too. I smell the vanilla sweetness way
Mm.
more on this one than I do on that one. I smell that more vanilla wood. This is more vanilla sherry sweet. But that's all nose, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go in here?
I think it's time. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
My only comment is that I think that it's almost the same.
It's similar.
It's very similar,
It's
but
very similar.
it finishes better. It's not as harsh. That's
I
the
would
only
say
edge I'd give it.
I would say it does finish maybe slightly. See, I don't know about harsh on the finish with the Balvenie. You definitely think that. I think it has more power, but I can see why you would say harshness. I think this one has a better palate. I think this beats the Balvenie triple cask on the palate.
So you're agreeing with me.
I agree with the palate.
With my prophecy.
Probably, maybe, maybe. I think slightly better nose on the Balvenie. This has a interesting nose, but a little sweet, overpowering. Finish, I would say they're equal to. In my books, you give the finish to the Dalmore as having a nicer finish.
Dalmore?
Or excuse me, the Tamdu.
Right.
No, Tamdu. But I
Just smoother. I'm
Just a
just
little-
saying
yeah, yeah.
smoother. Not,
Little smooth- no,
not
a little
necessarily
smoother.
nicer.
No, and I think it's less intense and less powerful and less of a finish. But I also think it is an easier and nicer finish. So I would agree.
Okay.
I can find some common ground there. So I give the edge to the Tamdu on the palate. I give the edge to the Tamdu maybe on the finish, but I think we're more of a saw-off there. And I give the edge to the Balvenie on the nose. I would agree with your observation that it's similar, though. You know, like, that has a
Yeah,
lot
there's
of the
not a
same
whole
going on.
bunch
Well, and this is
different,
where you
like-
kind of go, well, they're both Speyside whiskeys. You know, they're both the same price point.
Pretty
They
close
both took a
together.
lot of time to kind of get them there. The Tamdu's a 10. This is a 12. So there's some differences
Kind
there.
of like the weak fight between, say, like, I don't know, like what's better, Lafroig 10 or like Woolin 16, right? I mean, if we're talking price, that's totally different ballgame.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, it's sort of like, well, they're so close together. No wonder
They're close
they
together,
taste-
and
they
they're both expensive whiskeys. Like, these are not low ballers. You
This
know?
is, I would guess, this is probably pretty much the same
Yeah.
as the Tamdu,
Yeah, I think so too. You know, $100 bottle of scotch.
which is crazy again.
Yeah.
It really is. You're not going to go out and buy that again.
The
In fact, you'd probably stay away from that one if you hadn't. You know, if you had a whole bunch of other ones to choose from.
the triple cask?
Yeah.
I don't know. But then if you bring it back to the idea that you can get it for $80 imported duty free from Beijing, $80 for a liter of this is a pretty good price.
Yeah, but then you got to go back to thinking like, what are my other ones in that cost bracket?
Well, yeah. All right.
Okay, well,
That was battle scotch, comparison scotch.
but you
You
know,
think
it's like,
Tamdu over Balvenie?
it's
easily?
like watching featherweights and some. Well, no, featherweights, you know, they can still have an interesting fight, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really.
You're just not into it.
I'm not into either one of them.
Yeah.
So this
These
is what
are
I'm
threes.
saying. Would you go out and buy that again?
If it's $80 coming from duty
Although
free.
it is, yeah, it's not the
Yeah.
Tam though.
Yeah, for the
Nah.
I know it's confusing, but we're talking about 3-star whiskeys, but we're talking about the ability to get this one at 80 for a liter. I think I would get it again, you know. Like, but who knows? The best part is there's more. Like, what's more important at this point isn't to go back to this one, but to continue to explore others at the same price point, and just continue to build the map. That's more important at this point.
Yeah.
Than to try, you know. Now the
Well,
exceptions
that's just
of
it.
building a map is you need to have your 4 or 5 whiskeys that are like the ones you'll always have, you know. And we know that there's 3 of those for sure.
Yeah.
They're likely all 5 stars, and there's, you know, any of your 4s. If you have a 4, if you're rating it a 4, it pretty much means that you have to have it on the bar at all times. That's kind of what I'm starting to realize about a 4. And I think that's where tonight I got to the point where I could say, no,
Yeah.
it's not a 4.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think it is. I really
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. And like,
But I'm glad you
Came
you
around.
to see it my way. Quote of the night.
okay, let's do it. The light music of whiskey falling into glasses made an agreeable interlude.
Yeah.
We should focus on the. So listen one more time. The light music of whiskey falling into glasses made an agreeable interlude.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what does that strike you as saying?
Well,
That's James Joyce.
I think
by
it's
the way,
James
I think-
Joyce. Okay.
Isn't he? He's an Irishman, isn't he? I think he is.
I think so.
Right? He's not Robert Burns.
No.
It's like,
He's soon.
Not Robert Burns. We know that. So James Joyce, I do believe, was Irish. But
Sounds about right.
Maybe not. Who knows?
Okay.
We're not literary freaks here. We're whiskey freaks. So, what's he saying? So he pours his whiskey into the glass. It is beautiful, you know, melodic little.
But does it make a different sound than any other liquid going into a glass?
Yes.
Does it?
Because each whiskey has its own viscosity.
Well, he didn't mention anything about that.
He doesn't need to. His words allow your imagination
But
to
as
take
you
root.
said last week, that
Yeah.
they don't all have the same viscosity.
True.
You know, this is a lower.
Right.
This,
So and not every.
did we even talk about that?
Not every
is there
violin.
any viscosity in here at all?
Yeah, I mentioned it as not having much viscosity earlier. That was sort of something I noted in the video.
Okay, so the lighter one, the lower the viscosity, the more like water.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well,
And the
then
more viscosity, the more like oil.
you have to have a keen ear to determine the difference
Yeah.
between those two.
Well, maybe, yeah. So what's he saying in this though? The interlude bit
Well, it's a break in conversation, is it not?
could be a break in conversation, or it could be each time you pour a whiskey, it's sort of a new chapter or a new moment or a new time to reflect or think, you know. And then when you hear the dancing rhythm of the that's sort of like a time to pause, think, reflect, and begin anew. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. It's Irish. Writers
So
are
every time the
clever.
whiskey is being poured, there is a lull in conversation.
Well, not necessarily. It could just be like another extension or an additive or something that is brought to the conversation, you know?
Yeah.
That like, okay, so you're having a nice night and everything's going well, and you were just sort of hoping you could have another whiskey, and then all of a sudden one's poured. Wouldn't that be sort of like music to your ears?
That would be, but
Yeah.
I thought the quote was more about during, like, in the middle of an evening.
Yes.
I'm pouring you another scotch.
Right. And it's
great.
It's a musical interlude
Yeah.
that
I guess
adds,
there's
adds
always going to
something
be.
to the evening, right? It adds something in that moment to the evening.
It depends how close you are to the pour, maybe. Because you don't
Yeah.
always hear that. You
No?
can see it.
Yeah, because if a guy goes upstairs and
Yeah.
pours it and brings it back down to you,
Just
then
wait a sec.
But there's something to be said about having the bottle in the room with you.
And
then.
well, as we do, and
Yeah.
I think that is important. You can
Yeah.
always kind of glance at it and you go, yeah, there's some scotch in there.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Like even just looking at that big fat 1 liter bottle of Balvenie sitting there with the beautiful color and the nice cork and the pretty label.
But the
That's-
wee cork, though. Let's get back to
Yeah,
the cork.
that's is
eh?
a wee sort of.
Let me pull it off again.
You do it, dude. You don't need much.
Oh my goodness.
Say it just wants to come off.
It's not.
I think it's a small cork. They gave us a little one. Maybe we should take it back to Beijing and ask for a larger cork. That's not the music that we were hoping for from
No, that's
James
not a musical
Joyce.
interlude.
No. Well, but the pouring could be.
But yeah, the pouring, right? It's not the cork at all. But yeah, no, I get it.
Is
But
it?
hey, like, where did they take this quote from? Like, did somebody hear it when they were eating dinner with them, or after
Yeah,
dinner?
no, I know.
I guess. You know,
Yeah,
like, where
or
did
is
this
it
quote
written,
come from?
Is it written from a piece of a prose? Is it a poem?
Yeah.
Is it a one-liner from a poem? Yeah, those are good questions. What context was he writing that within?
Maybe it really made sense and clicked all in that night.
Yeah, maybe. Well, and if you notice, a lot of the quotes are sort of about writers, and artists.
Yeah,
Often
definitely
connects-
artists.
Definitely, actors, writers, painters.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't specifically know of any painters, but if we look carefully, I'm sure we'd find one. The
Oh, is that your?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you
It's
still
all
have
good.
some.
Yeah,
I was
I
gonna
just-
pour it by your microphone. Let's
Oh,
get,
okay.
I'll pour it,
we good?
or I'll pour it.
Okay,
Are you
careful.
afraid that?
Careful. No, that's not what I was hoping for. It's just dribbling.
I can't get a sound otherwise.
I know.
I keep
because
pouring
the way
more
to
and
do
more.
it is here. Let's try that again.
I don't need any more.
No. We can do it this way. See, it's
That was
gotta-
pretty good,
Yeah,
actually.
it's
I
gotta have that.
really heard
you can- That's what you want, right? Well, now that. Well, because I do notice it when I pour it from a certain height that you get that. Like there's a little something going on there.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can get back to the idea of that artistic connection, that artists and whiskey. That's a worthy conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and I think sometimes like a little, sometimes you need a little grease of the wheels to get your artistic mind going, So sometimes it's good to, you have a little writer's block, or you're having a moment where you're having some issues editing, or, whatever. And sometimes it's good just to walk away from the work, listen to some music, have a little whiskey, and then just let your mind work on whatever you're doing, and then kind of come back to your work and try and get at it, I think whiskey works really well in those situations.
And sometimes having a little dram while you're working is all right too.
Totally.
Yeah.
I would agree 100%.
It's a small one. I am looking forward to doing a blend. I think that will be an
A
exciting
blending show? A show on blends?
one. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least one blend. Like, let's pick a good blend.
I don't even know how to
like
do that.
Black Bottle. Was Black
Black
Bottle?
Label?
Is it
Oh
Black
no,
Label?
that one that's out now, that black bottle. There's a blend now that I see on the shelves that people are talking about. It's like a little more expensive than the normal blends.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
I just want to see, natural reactions, drinking it the same way as you would a single malt. I know that you probably wouldn't, and on most occasions you're not going to drink it as you would a single malt. But drink it as a single malt. Let's see how it stacks up. Everything, price included.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
That's-
how are we going to, otherwise, you gotta have the benchmark somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that conversation came up last week with the Strathisla, to say, if Strathisla is the lowest whiskey that we've had as a single malt, which isn't quite true, because there's these, what's that, McLennan's and that stuff, and so, and then, I would be interested to see where the Aberlour is on that ranking, but currently, Strathisla is kind of the end of the single malt. So are there blends that easily surpass that single malt? And I've been led to believe that there are. That the best blends are actually some of the finest whiskeys that you can have.
Well, there you go. Then it's
we haven't-
worthwhile taking a strike and going for that.
Right. But then you get into the whole, well, we've had Johnny Walker Blue, and it's supposed to be a great blend. And maybe it is.
Yeah, well, exactly, because some blends are more expensive than single
Yeah.
malts, which still baffles my mind.
A little bit, except, like I say, I mean, I've read enough from enough people that seem to know what they're talking about that suggests that the finest blends are a worthy thing, like... That if you
I hope I
but-
find one.
well,
I
I
really
mean,
do,
but
because
yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean-
thinking that. That's the last thing on my mind right now.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. But I mean, I don't think it should put the blinders on entirely to the point where it's
No,
like,
I'm
it
not.
can't
I'm
be.
trying to be as
Yeah.
open as I can.
Yeah, well, you're the one suggesting tasting blend. So
Yeah.
there you go. But I mean, tasting a Chivas Regal or tasting a Johnny Walker Black,
Well,
or
that's-
tasting whatever,
Well, I
Monkey
think
Shoulder, which we
comparison
have
Scotch
tasted,
going up against like a Johnny Walker Black against the Strathisla, right? Like that.
could be interesting. Because Strathisla not cheap. It's not like they're giving it away.
No, but it's not.
You're not paying
it's certainly not
$25 a bottle.
expensive. It's not. I mean,
Well,
they
what's
know
more
what they're
expensive
doing.
between a Strathisla and a Johnny Walker Black? Probably the Strathisla.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Johnny Walker. I mean, years ago when I actually looked at blends in the store, Johnny Walker was probably around 40 something.
Wow.
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gone up at least $5.
Yeah.
So it's got to be right around the $50 mark.
Yeah.
And Strathisla is just a couple bucks more than that.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I mean, that's why we do these things, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
to set out to actually look at this stuff.
All right. Well. It's sort of like a downer, eh?
It's a downer
It's
night.
like a downer Balvenie night.
Balvenie, yeah,
It's just not that exciting,
I guess. I don't know.
you know?
I think I did enjoy the taste of it. Like, I'm enjoying it right now. I mean, it still tastes great.
It's still honestly like usually when I drink scotches, I taste like I'm so into it. Like in the second glass, you know, by the end of the second glass, I'm like, oh, I understand this scotch, and this one I don't. I'm just like,
So
ugh.
the Auchentoshan, you think is better than
do.
this? Better
I
than the
do.
Balvenie triple cask.
I do,
It's like maybe
even though it's colored.
the Auchentoshan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is horrible.
Yeah, it's a little silly. Why wouldn't they just
Color,
let it all
just-
hang out?
Who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what does it matter what the color looks
No, I
like?
think it almost works better that it's pale and it still tastes wicked.
Yeah.
You know, and really cool.
Maybe it's white. Maybe it looks like Blanco tequila.
White lightning.
Who cares,
Yeah.
right? That's what it is.
I agree.
And with the triple distilled, yeah, I don't want to get back into that, but I heard that I was reading up on that, and it said that the triple distilled actually takes out the impurities.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they say, but that's what gives Scotch its flavor. In most
Right.
cases, that's you're taking out, but at the same time, I still
But you're
think
opening
that
you're opening some pathways for some different things by taking out that stuff.
maybe.
You know what I mean? So you're taking
But
out
you're
some of that
taking out
heavy.
the earth. You're taking out whatever
Yeah,
it is. Like
you're
some
taking
of the,
out some of the heavy body and replacing it with that sort of spring essence. You know, that peppy.
But Isn't
thing.
the whole point though, like to make a Scotch in a certain spot in Scotland, and to have it reflect the surroundings and the naturalness that it comes from?
Well, I mean, I think that's what we have come to think that Scotch should be about. I think that's part of.
How do you
know,
argue against that though? I'm not saying you can't.
I don't argue against it. I can explain it though. I would say that the triple distilling was brought from Ireland and showed people how to create a light-bodied, easier drinking, easier to consume product that was palatable to the populace. So Auchentoshan wasn't interested in serving the whiskey geek. They were interested in serving the populace. They were interested in selling whiskey and creating volumes of it. So it's a different, it's hard to hold that process up to the, standards of sort of like the very specific geography and the very specific single malt. Things have shifted. You have to understand that we came up during a time when single malt was new, exciting, and cool, and we caught the fever, previous to that time, like I think we came in right when single malt really started getting going, and then as a result, we're incredibly biased toward what we want and what we're looking for. And
Apparently, it was right around 2000.
yeah,
which
makes
makes
exactly
perfect
where
sense.
we happened to drop on the map
Yeah.
right at that time. So we were lucky, and I think that's why we're still into it. Is that we just caught the fire, and it's difficult to look beyond any of that. But I think it's important to understand how it all got to that point. And that's why you have to look at an Auchentoshan and triple distilling and kind of be like, oh, okay, they did it for this. And now that's become their trademark, the light body, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And that's what people wanted, They wanted to have something that didn't interfere with their scotch and soda,
I just can't understand who would want that.
Well, people that love scotch and soda, I guess,
People that like Scotch and soda. Let me try that again. Let me-
People
let
that
me-
love
people
scotch and soda should
people-
be strung by the yardarm.
Well, no, I was going to say people that like Scotch and soda drink blends.
Right. Yeah.
So how much do you really like it? How much do you really like gin if all you drink is gin
Wait a
and
sec.
tonic?
So this comes back to the thing, like where you have to remember the history of whiskey making and realize that the majority of all these distilleries that kept in business because they were shipping their whiskey off to be blended.
I know.
I know,
We keep
but
going back to that.
But that's
I just,
the truth, and you can't.
But not now.
You can't just dismiss
Not now.
it. Well, but the reason why they stand is because they serve that purpose. So that and the blends might still be propping up the whole industry. For goodness sakes, we don't even know.
It's just a horrible thought. It really that fact about Scotch stacks up with coloring it, and that bugs me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, things have changed. Things continue to change.
Well,
Johnny.
yeah, I think that's it's another
Maybe not charged up like we like to be.
no, but
No
you,
sing song tonight.
But you're right. The Scotch dictates the evening, right?
Totally. Sometimes it takes over and establishes its own vibe, its
So
own
we-
spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we may disagree on a few things, but I think we level out around the same area.
Yeah. And no matter what, we're always up for we're up for it.
Mhm.
We're up for the try,
Exactly.
and if you don't try, it's, it doesn't reinforce some of the things that you already know too, right?
Yeah.
And that comes back to it sometimes. We're
Yeah,
like, we did through it, we had this experience, and maybe it wasn't what we were hoping for, but then it makes you appreciate what you do know and what you have
Yeah.
had.
Don't need to buy it again.
No, not
Right?
necessarily.
Right? I mean, not necessarily. Maybe.
At
Wouldn't
the right price.
necessarily
At the
not
right
accept
price.
it as a gift.
Did you get the receipt with that, or
Is it unopened?
it seems to want to open itself? This guy just slips right off.
Well, anyway,
Anyway,
there you go.
there it is. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wee Dram.
Battle segment.
Sequence. Segment.
You want to do sequence or segment?
Sequence. Okay.
Okay.